Morning. I can't find the comment, but somebody asked me about white history and why there's no White History Month. And since it's June 1st, I figured why not talk about white history for a month, starting with Greenwood, Oklahoma. On May 31st, 1921, thousands of angry white people flooded the Greenwood district of Tulsa, Oklahoma. You see, the white people of Tulsa, Oklahoma were pissed off at the audacity of black people to turn the Greenwood district into a thriving, affluent, opulent black community. How dare they, when we have segregation set in place and legalized discrimination to prevent them from being prosperous, how dare they prosper in the face of adversity? So, white men told a lie that riled up other white men until thousands of angry white people formed a mob that flooded the streets of the Greenwood district of Tulsa, Oklahoma. There, this angry mob of white people killed over 300 innocent black people. They burned over 1,250 homes. They looted businesses and then burned them to the ground. And in less than 24 hours, angry white people reduced years of black generational wealth and black excellence to ashes. Now, some black families who lost everything in the destruction of Black Wall Street, as the Greenwood district was called, moved and never went back, while others decided to stay and wanted to rebuild Greenwood. But faced with such white adversity, they found rebuilding it to its glory days difficult. And to add insult to injury, white bank managers refused to let black people withdraw their money from the banks, saying that because you lost everything in the great fires, you have no proof that you ever banked with us. And so we're not letting you take out any money. That money has been sitting in the banks since 1921, accruing interest, and their descendants today still don't have access to the money in those banks. And that's how the bombing of Black Wall Street, or the Tulsa Race Massacre, became a moment in white history.
For more than 40 years. So it's incredible now to have the DNA data that really shows us what this guy looked like. You know, the hair, the eyes, the face, that combination of blue eyes and dark skin, really very striking, something we wouldn't have imagined. And to also get from the DNA, details of his biology, the fact that he couldn't digest milk as an adult. That's something that came really with the advent of farming, and 10,000 years ago people in Britain didn't have that. And of course it's very striking for a 10,000-year-old human. Our expectations a few years ago would have been that this individual would have had maybe dark hair but fairly pale skin, possibly blue eyes. And what we've got is a quite unusual combination of this dark, slightly curly hair, really quite dark skin, and quite striking blue eyes.
1, 2, 3, bye-bye!
There's a trend that happens online, especially on this app, where a certain demographic of people come online consistently and say, guess how old I look? This is a normal 40-year-old. This is a normal 30-year-old. This is a normal 50-year-old without filler, without Botox. And yes, while this generation and the world has normalized cosmetic procedures, what these videos are intending to do is normalize the rate of aging, or normalize the rate of skin or sun damage that some demographics have as the normal standard way of aging. There was a young lady that came on here who was 25, and she had severe sun damage, like severe skin damage. And she was like, this is a normal 25-year-old, no Botox, no filler. And half the comments were people being like, hey, like, use sunscreen. But there was this trend online of people being like, you look great. These people don't know what a real face looks like. I do know what a real face looks like, and no one at 25 should look that old. This is even only a topic for me because the normalization of the white standard.
Hello, what's up? Hi everybody, how are you doing? I'm hoping that you are doing great from wherever you're watching this video from. As you know, I'm your host and presenter HSTORY. Now, when we talk about the history of white people, this is why it gets interesting and difficult at the same time. See, majority of us as black people, as an African, let me be honest, as an African, let me speak for myself, right? As an African, I grew up knowing that there is nothing great that a black person has done. And even our history books, it really didn't focus on saying what black people did like the true history. Majority of times people think that the black history starts from slavery. But, well, in fact, that's a rich part of black history that should be taught, that is not being taught, or that is not being told. So as an African, our textbooks, our history books, all of these never told us the other side of the story. The only part that the history of white people starts with colonization. Then later on, you advance to the history of transatlantic slave trade, or what some people call the triangular trade. But I don't think that's where the history of black people starts from. The history of black people starts from a point where we see the poignant things that black people ever did to change civilization. Black people were the most educated. Black people were the most knowledgeable. In fact, in business, in commerce, technology, black people did better in these spaces. But since white people had, they were envious, let me use the word envious. They were envious of black success. They were envious of what black people were doing. They decided to change everything. And that's why the narrative changes. Because this group of people pillage, rape, destroy. That's what they did. So when you get to hear the story of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and what really transpired there, because we had a black empire. I'd call it a black empire because black people were thriving. They were doing better. But because of the fear the white people had, they destroyed all that belonged to black people. So you ask yourself why there is no White History Month. It's because there is nothing to celebrate. They are always celebrating the destruction of other people. And in this case scenario, we have black Americans who are in question, who are in fact their history is so much rich than what history textbooks tells you, or what your history professor teaches you, right? So I want us to watch this video. I'll be back and then I'll be sharing my 2 cents in regards to this. And for those who are watching me for the first time, I'm your host and presenter HSTORY Stories. Just want to say thank you for all the support. I just want to say thank you for all who are always coming back watching my videos. Man, I'm really, really grateful for all the support that you all give me. So brothers and sisters, let's watch the video. I'll be back with my thoughts and commentaries in regards to this. So let's watch the video. Back.
Is the issue that we're going through. Now, we've all heard the phrase black don't crack. Black cracks for some people, but genetically and literally, quite literally, we age slower than white people. And there's a slew of scientific research done on this. It's our skin density, it's the melanin, it's a lot of factors that go into why we just look younger on average than white people. I'm 40 years old, and every time I say that, people are like, what do you mean you're 40 years old? And I'm like, I'm a black 40. Black 40 is not white 40. But 25, I don't care whether you're white, black, brown, Asian, 25-year-olds are still young. You don't look 40 at 25. I say this to say, stop coming online and asking people what age you look. I think a lot of you have like a humiliation kink, or like you're a masochist, but stop trying to normalize white people aging and white skin as the standard, because you guys aren't the standard in the world. In fact, Europeans are the minority of the world. The rest of us are all melanated people. So, but please stop coming online and saying that we sound crazy and everyone ages the same way, or this is a normal. There's no such thing as a normal 40-year-old, normal 50-year-old. We all age different, and we have to normalize all of us being different because genetically we are different. Happy Sunday.
The craziest thing about going to Europe as an American for me was seeing the way that white people's skin ages in its natural habitat. Because I've lived in California my entire life, and my skin has visible sun damage everywhere. Like, you know, there's these sunspots, these freckles, these like really fine lines that come from tanning and burning and blah, blah, blah. And everyone I know who's white, who has lived in the same area, they have a similar situation. If you look closely, there's sun damage all over their skin. I'm not saying it's a tragedy. I'm just saying, like, that's a fact of life. That's just what happens. When I went to Poland, for the first time ever, I saw white people who were like full-grown, like 50-year-old adults with basically no sun damage. Like, if you looked at them, obviously they were like, you could tell that they were 50. They had normal wrinkles from like being alive for that long and smiling and laughing and whatever. But like, they didn't have like sun damage wrinkles or spots or freckles or anything. They didn't have like any of this stuff. They were just like flat white. Like, just completely white. Like alabaster. And it was crazy because I've never even like seriously thought that was possible. I didn't know. I mean, I guess I know it makes sense historically that if your skin evolved for that place, it wouldn't get damaged. But I've just never seen that before in America ever. And it was just so shocking to me. And it just made me think about how unfit for the environment white people truly are in America.
Sorry, but can I just say how weird it is for a Middle Eastern girl who've been bullied since like 5 years old about, ew, you're so brown, you're so hairy, nah, nah, nah. And then like all of a sudden in the past 5 years, like the whole internet's like, oh, you're white part. Like, it's so weird and like it's not normal. Like, I don't know what's wrong with the internet's like perception of like people and what they're supposed to look like. Like, I don't know if you remember, but a white girl without like makeup, tan, bloody lashes, eyebrows looks something like this. Like that's their baseline, and nothing wrong with that. Like, every race is beautiful in their own way. I'm just saying, like, I'm shocked that like we've forgotten what people are supposed to look like and now suddenly we're all white passing. I don't know, it's just very odd behavior. I mean, I love getting angry at stuff, so this is like perfect for me because I'm like getting filled with rage. Anyway, like, what the hell? Like, I'm literally wearing a filter to make my nose look even smaller because I'm so bloody brainwashed from my whole life. Anyway, thank you so much for your comment, and I will talk to you another time, Nida.
History of pale skin. People were dying to be white. Literally. Did you know that in medieval Europe, fair skin was all the rage? Women would place leeches on their earlobes so that it can drain the blood from their face to appear more pale. Others would slap some rose water and some flour on their face and call it a day. And good old Queen Elizabeth here, she would slather her face with cerise, one of those, which is a lead and vinegar paste. Researchers say because of all the years of this poisoning, it left her skin with holes in it the size of craters, bad breath and hair loss, and they even say it very well could have killed her. And by the 17th century, women had discovered that the same ingredient in rat poison can also make them look pale. So why not? In 1625, a product called Aqua Tofana came out. Pretty much promised women that their milkshakes will bring all the boys to the yard, aka having all the boys kissing their fair cheeks. This had arsenic in it, and when it did bring the boys to the yard, it killed over 600 men. In 1751, this lovely lady here, Maria Gunning, at 27, she died from lead poisoning from her makeup. Her deadly face paint also set her liver on fire. By the Victorian era, women still wanted to look faint, but heavy makeup and arsenic poison was just so last century. So instead, the ladies chew on arsenic complexion wafers. Wafers made women white by killing the hemoglobin in the blood, but it also slowed oxygen to the brain.
This is Jerusalem in 1925. Why do you think the leader said, how are you guys Jews if you guys left black but came back white? How'd you leave black but came back white? We've been lied to.
But the CT scan has one more surprise for Alejandro. Shamai's ethnicity.
Well, they have just told me that Shamai had a Nubian feature, which means that their ruling family was probably Nubian, and that was unexpected.
Examining Shamai's anatomy closely, the thickness of his bones and the shape of his nasal cavity, the anthropologists think he was a black African, likely from neighboring Nubia. A huge revelation that challenges the prevailing image of the Egyptian ruling class.
We always thought the ancient Egyptian elite were Mediterranean type, and in this sense, Shema is representing the society of the frontier, in which different ethnic groups were mixed.
They were dark skinned, but they were not black. But they are not Negro.
What? What?
Because look at the lips of the Negroes like that, and the nose like this. It's not really the Egyptian origin at all. It's different, completely different. And this is why you cannot connect the Egyptian civilization with the African at all. It's different. All from Syria, Palestine, Mesopotamia, it's different, completely.
No colored people, or for whites only. Can you imagine? I want to learn black history. I'm on Amelia Island, just north of Jacksonville in northern Florida. I stopped by to see this historical marker. Have you ever actually stopped and looked at one of these things? American Beach was established in 1935 under the leadership of Abraham Lincoln Lewis, one of Florida's first black millionaires. Florida's beaches were racially segregated until the passage of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. You could not go to the main beaches in the Jacksonville area. You had to drive all the way up here to Amelia Island, which is still kind of out of the way. Because of this, American Beach became regionally popular since it was one of the few beaches in the Southeast open to African Americans. You know how there's always a bunch of signs at the beach, no driving or no pets or whatever. Imagine you're at a white beach and one of the things that it says is no colored people or for whites only. Can you imagine? Other sites in American Beach trace their history to the Civil War era. In 1862, Union forces captured Amelia Island and the freed slaves founded Franklintown at the south end of this island. The Franklintown Cemetery still exists today. Whoa, it still exists, and it's on Highway A1A. Let's check it out. I just found the site of the historical Franklin Cemetery. Uh-oh, better call this number. I was unable to reach anyone, but I went around to the side where there's just a little hedge between me and the cemetery, so I can check it out from here. I need to remember that all this history is in the family history of so many Americans today. It's in their memories, it's part of their identity, and that's why it's important to know this.
Did you know that American colonists were so stinky that native people could smell them a mile away? Okay, that was a slight exaggeration, but their hygiene was very bad. 17th century Europeans did not regularly participate in full immersion bathing. Instead, they washed their face and hands at a basin each day and believed that washing their linen undergarments was enough to keep their body clean. Native Americans bathed regularly in open rivers and streams. And even their oral hygiene was superior. They used things like chew sticks, mint and charcoal to keep their teeth fresh and clean. Many of us were taught in school that Native Americans were simply defeated by the strength of European troops, but this wasn't true. Germs killed more Native people than guns. Millions of Native people died because of the horrible diseases brought over by Europeans as a result of bad hygiene. This included diseases like smallpox.
Alright, now let me tell you the origin of the white race. So about 6,000, 7,000, or 8,000 years, the white race landed on this planet. And it was created by a dude named Yakub, which is a big-headed scientist and the father of the white race. And it took him 600 years to complete the white race. And he was doing it on an island called Pedmos. And when he completed the science experiment, he migrated them on the Caucasus Mountains. Which is why y'all was given the name Caucasian, because y'all stem from the Caucasus Mountains. Now, white people have 4% Neanderthal DNA, and they're only 96% human. And the Neanderthal DNA comes from the monkey. Now, the white race has DNA, and black people have DEA. Now, you are human beings such as Caucasian, Asians, Dravidians, Mexican, and Arab, who have DNA which comes from the animals. And you have that because you are a hybrid of the animal genetics. Now, the difference between blacks and Latino, we have DEA. Or neuromelanin beings or carbonated beings, you have DEA, which is deoxyetheric acid, which connects you to the etheric realm. Now, guess how many Neanderthal traits you'll find in a black person DEA? None, right? You will find 0 traits of Neanderthal, because we are the original people that been here, which is the gods and the goddesses, and we are the most powerful beings in the cosmos. Now, this is not a racist thing, this is true knowledge. It's just we are all not one race, and they told us we were just one race. And they told you lies in your face to keep you dumbfounded and not finding out the truth.
Most white Americans are obsessed with discovering our ancestry because we are yearning to understand where we come from. When we arrived in America, our job was no longer to be Greek or French or German or whatever. Our job was to be white. and embark on the project of whiteness, right? The problem, of course, besides the violence, is that a mere 2 to 3 generations later, we're so hungry to figure out where we come from because whiteness is rootless. It's too new and it hasn't really done anything good for the world. We crave roots that have more nourishment. But I'm going to tell you now why the search for your European ancestors is always going to be fruitless and futile, and also why it's going to be okay anyway. I think it's an invitation for something even better. Like other people facing the rootless wonder that is European American existence, I sent off a sample of my DNA to a private company to tell me who I am. I knew the basics of my heritage in the sense that I knew my birth certificate said French, Welsh, Portuguese, and German. That's all I knew. 23andMe finished analyzing my data and they said, yeah, that all checks out. And also, did you know you're 12% Sardinian? No? I make some calls. No one in my family has any record of this, right? I become completely obsessed with Sardinia for 2 weeks. I am looking up Sardinian history. I'm looking up Sardinian culture. I am planning a $2,000 trip to Sardinia so I can go and try that like freaky worm cheese they have. For a reason I can't yet articulate, I know that being from this place makes me a more interesting person. And I log in one day to show someone and poof, it is just gone. They took all my little Sardinian Pokemon DNA points and put them into Portugal. Like the whole thing was just some kind of rounding error. And I was very upset about this. I felt betrayed. And then I was like, I just let a private for-profit company tell me a story about myself that I can never verify, that you can never verify unless you have a fucking time machine, and used it to change my entire perception about who I am. The whole exercise revealed itself to be what it truly was, which is useless. You go looking for your ancestors not because you are looking for blood purity. You're looking for stories. Blood will never tell you a story. You put a story on blood. You find out your part whatever, and you tell yourself a story about what that means about you based on stereotypes you've heard about that culture from other people. That is not the same thing as learning about what your ancestors were like. Were they kind neighbors? Were they loving parents? Were they cruel to strangers? What did they think of immigrants? What did they think was happening when they prayed? Did they ever think about you? You just don't get to know that with a DNA test. That will only ever be a story you make up in your head that you allow a DNA test to give you permission to indulge. And there is a freedom in this. Actually, stay with me. I think most of us want to be burdened with a legacy. We want destiny and direction that is so certain and so strong. We might actually have the gall, the bratty urge to fight it. DNA tests don't give us legacy. The freedom of America that was promised to European settlers can be realized by us, the descendants of those settlers, but perhaps not in the way that it was originally set out. I feel like a wandering white ghost. I think a lot of us do. But we are still the inheritors of incredible wealth and incredible things were built for us. We are ghosts holding bags of money and power. We need to realize that looking backward is only going to get us so far. We need to look forward. Maybe our ancestral legacy is the realization of the benefits of rootlessness, that we are part of a global family, and that it is our obligation to care about that. That is our evolution. We know how easy it is to be torn away from a bloodline, removed from a cultural and a national identity, and reformed into something new that doesn't fully understand itself and the consequences of that. Because borders always change. Nations always change, and cultures are always in a state of change. If you wrap your self-perception up too much in these things, these changing things, you lose the plot of what ancestry is about. Ancestry is the search for family, for belonging. You already are a part of a family, even if it's a dysfunctional one. Care about that.
I used to believe that white people couldn't be spiritual until I realized that the vast majority of them were spiritual until they severed ties with their ancestors in spiritual practices in order to gain access to the concept of whiteness. The creation of whiteness as a racial category required the spiritual and cultural castration of the diverse European people it encompassed. To become white, they had to sever their connection with their specific cultural ancestors, folkways, and spiritual traditions, replacing them with a hollow identity based solely on racial supremacy and aligned with state-approved religion. The rise of centralized nation states and state-sponsored Christianity required the suppression of local pagan and folk spiritual practices. Celtic tradition, Nordic mythology, Slavic folk magic, countless others were systematically demonized, outlawed, and driven underground by church and state authority. It was a spiritual colonization within Europe. When these groups came to America, they were already partially disconnected from their roots. But to be a proper American meant they had to shed the remnants of their old country superstitions and embrace a more standard Anglo-Protestant identity. The mantra was to forget the old world and its ways and reinvent yourself in the new world as an American. This meant abandoning the collective ancestral identity of the past. Whiteness as a concept has no ancestors. It's ahistorical and offers an identity based on what you are instead of who you came from. They had to trade their ancestors for a racial category. The path to whiteness was to accept assimilation, abandoning native languages, adopting Anglo names, leaving their distinct religious practices behind, and actively distancing themselves from Black and Indigenous people to prove that they deserved the wage of whiteness, all to gain access to a bland and homogenized racial category. Yikes. And this is why the concept of white pride is inherently racist. Because you aren't white. You were never white. You abandoned everything you are and everything you came from to be a part of a supremacist group in order to have power over other groups of people. And when you know that, you know that there can be no such thing as white pride. You had an identity. You gave it up for false power. Now we all live in a system of capitalism, consumerism that benefits none of us. The more that you know.
Hello brothers and sisters, welcome back to the channel. I'm hoping that you are doing great from wherever you're watching this video from. Again, I'm your host and present HSTORY. You know, it is always rightful to talk about the truth because majority of time they've tried so much to bury the truth. They've tried so much not to let Black people know the truth, because at the end of the day, if Black people get to know the truth, it means that they have nobody to lie to, or they have no one else to teach or to lie to about their history and everything that they did. Now, it is safe to say that Black people really played a significant role in making the United States be whatever it is today. And what white Americans did was to destroy what Black people created. And I think in some other videos, I gave you the history of white farmers and Black farmers and how all these groups of people in the name of Triple K, they came and destroyed Black homes, Black farms, because they feel threatened by Black people. Black people were successful farmers. Black people had a huge tract of lands because they were indigenous to the land. So what this means that this group of people were so much envious of Black Americans. And this is what happened. So when they were envious of Black Americans, they did one thing. The only way to avoid competition from a more complex person, from a person who knows what they are doing, the only thing that they could do is they could use religion to destroy what Black people had. And through the KKK, they burned down Black houses, they grabbed Black lands, they chased Blacks away. All those crazy stuff they did to Black people. They drowned down Black towns like we have Lake Lania. I believe that you all know the history of Lake Lania and how it came to be. Those were Black towns that were drowned because of the fear, because of the envy of the growth of Black people. All that made them envious. And because of the fear, they projected their fear through burning down what belonged to Black people. And this is why it gets interesting. The place where it gets interesting is this part, where now you start to dissect the history of white people. You now start to see them. You start to see the reality of who they are. When now you start to dissect the reality of white people. The reality of white people is they're a group of people that grew up everything being done to them. Because do you know where they realized that Black people were so much capable? All this was before even slavery. Look at the black civilization. Look at how black people lived. Black people traveled from one place to another. They had the technology of dhows and ships to move from one continent to another. Black people were already in these places. And now, they saw how complex black people were in terms of their knowledge and in terms of their thinking. And that posed a threat to them. It posed a threat to them, brothers and sisters. It posed a threat to them because if these are the group of people that they were going to interact with, then it means they were done. So they tried different things in different departments. After destroying the image of black people, that's now slavery came and happened. They introduced something called eugenics. You know how eugenics works? Eugenics worked in this way. Eugenics portrayed black genes or black genetics as inferior or as less viable. And this is what happened. They started discriminating black people. And there's a seed that they planted in the minds of black people. And I'm so sorry to say this. Because after they lied, after they put all these lies, these historical lies to black people, we started hating ourselves. Because the history was now taught on the lenses of white people. And you know what? They portrayed themselves as greater. They portrayed their genes as much desirable genes. And they portrayed ours as a less desirable gene. And you know what that did to black people mentally, psychologically? That they are inferior. That they are nothing greater than them. So when you see black people, some black folks bleaching their skins, wanting to have things that, it's crazy because they planted the seed. But one good thing that I'll say is that the truth finally came out and everyone know the truth. After them trying to whitewash history, after them trying to make history all about them, the truth indeed came out and everyone knew the truth. So that's what's up. And that's what's really happening. So please let me know what you all think about this video, right? I'm your host and presenter, HSTORY. And for those watching me for the first time, I'm asking you to please subscribe to the channel. You can join the memberships and really see what I can offer you. But until then, I'm hoping to see you in my next video. Until then, peace, love, and harmony. Salud.